Okie doke, just like Zoom calls, as soon as I'm ready to say, oh, okay, let's start started, somebody pops in the back, but we are going to get rolling. Yeah, you two, shush it up. Welcome. I am so glad y'all are here. I'm Arlene Moss. If you have not met me before, welcome, welcome. Super excited to see you. Yay for the Minneapolis contingent over there in that row. So thank you for welcoming us to your fine city. It is stunning. We are having a little chitty chat today. Apparently, I'm not good with numbers. I think we've established that before, but today, Exhibit A is 4 people at a 3-person table. You're welcome. They didn't tell me there was a limit, and I was just like, I don't know, I love them all, and they represent different things. So we are talking today about the path to firm ownership. Should you buy, partner, or launch your own RIA? And I'm so excited to be up here and get to listen to this conversation and the stories between truly some of my favorite members. That's the great thing about doing a panel is you just get to invite your friends and hope the people that you've been watching and observing get to show up. But the short answer is yes. There we go. We're done with the panel because it's a ridiculous name for a panel. But yes, of course, you should do one of these things. But here's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about some things to help you find your yes, because each of you will have your own. There is no one solid right answer. So I've got 4 folks here. I want to do some quick intros. And just so you know, the layout of the call here or whatever. No, we're not on a Zoom call, Arlene, are we? No, we are not. We are in real life. The layout of the session, excuse me, I'm going to do some quick bios on my own, but then each of them is going to give you a little more juice to that. And then, contrary to typical panels where I would just be here like, hey, tell me a story about blah, blah, blah. I'm going to save that for the end because it's more important to me that we get your questions. So we're going to go straight from my little intro squishy stuff into the bulk is going to be your questions. And then I've got some stuff here in case you are all freaked out by that and don't actually have questions. But that's kind of the lay of how things are going to go today. So who we've got up here, let's run from the far side. My delightful friend Nick Nauta, who puts up with a lot from me. He is a partner at Shotwell Rudder Bear. I have the absolute honor and privilege of coaching his business partner. They have a team of 7, if I understand my math, if I counted everyone. I lose track. They get new friends a lot, and sometimes I forget. Anywho, but he joined as a partner after the founder retired, right? Beth was gone when you joined? Yeah, so after the founder retired, he joined. So he's kind of, I think of him as like generation 2.5, but because you're not really G2, so that's kind of how I signed you up. They have 2 lead advisors, 2 residents, an intern, and 3 support staff. And I'm nodding, looking at you to see if I'm telling you the correct thing. Are those the right numbers? Did I forget anybody? Yep. Okay, next up, we got AJ Ayers, who is coming to you from a big team. She is part of Brooklyn FI. Last I checked their website, there were 16. Wait a minute, what? Your website sucks.
We'll get to that.
Okay, horrible research. Could have maybe confirmed it with you. 30, holy crow. Okay, and they started from humble beginnings. She and Shane started, and that's going to be part of this story. So she was partners with Shane Mason after a podcast episode, which I love that so much. Their focus is equity comp, creatives with a heavy tax focus, which is Shane's origin story outside of the scope of today, but also pretty cool. So next in Sapphire is the original OG Sapphire gal here, Melissa Ellis. She owns Sapphire Wealth Planning and has forgiven us from stealing her gemstone, and I really appreciate that. Melissa is empowering women to achieve financial independence. She owns a solo firm. So I wanted you to hear about solo firm. She is a CFP, or holds the CFP, whatever the proper phrasing is. Also CDFA, and she's got a glorious little origin story that she's going to share with you. It involves a whole lot of smushing down and saying no, and a lot of ick got you here. And I love you dearly, and you're one of the most forgiving people ever. And I love that about you. And when I say that about people, it means they forgave me, just in case you wondered why I say that. So finally, Andy Panko, who I actually don't know that well. I stalk online. So that's why he got here. He is founder of Tenon Financial. They have a 2-person team now. And here's part of why he's on the stage. Originally started in financial planning, entry-level stuff was hideous, so he left. He was like, that's it. I think I'm going to take 2 decades, almost, to wander about in banking and global insurance and brokerage firms and all the gross places that people go before they end up back here saying, no. So he's back, and I wanted to hear about that journey that brings him here. They do tax-efficient financial planning and investment management, not shockingly, at or near retirement. So let's zoom in. Story questions is what this is. This will give you a little more juice. So Melissa, you're first on my list. I don't know why. Because oh my gosh, if you want to listen, I thought I had your podcast episode written down, but I can't remember the number. Do you know your number? Are you 135?
Maybe. That's about right.
I think it's 135. I could have sworn I put it in these notes, but I don't see it. So I'm a terrible moderator. But anyway, it's glorious because you will hear all the different ways people said no. But can you tell us in just a minute or so a little bit about all those no's and what was the thing that finally got you on your way? And that should be on, I hope.
Real quick, just a quick synopsis, not the whole.
No, we don't need the whole podcast. They can go.
She
But
hear the whole story. So I was a career changer. This was like 15 years ago. And I decided, well, first off, I wanted to be a financial planner back when I was like 23 because my dad worked for Waddell & Reed. He was an advisor, and I liked how he could just fix his schedule. He could go golfing. Not that I wanted to go golfing, but I liked the idea of having that flexibility. And so at the time he told me, no, it's not a good profession for a young lady. And there really weren't very many women in this at that time because I'm kind of old. But so I just said, okay, and I don't know why I just didn't. Usually I never listened to him, but I did. And I went on, had another career where I actually did business planning for a major airline. And so then whenever that airline got absorbed by American Airlines, it was TWA, then it became American, didn't want to go to Dallas. So I career changed and thought, now I'm going to be a financial planner. I got divorced, and I thought, I can do whatever I want now, and no one's here to tell me I can't do it. So I told my dad I'm ready, and he was ready to retire. So I was, I'm going to take over your book, and I'm going to do this. And so he said, okay, this is fine, but if we're going to do this, we should go work with this guy that he had worked with for years who launched his own firm. And I said, okay, fine. So we go there, and they come up with a gentleman's deal verbally about there's a book that I was going to acquire, and that after 3 years, it would be my book. We'd do revenue share for 3 years, and it was mine. Well, after a year and a half, my dad and that gentleman had a disagreement of some sort. I don't know what it was. Nobody ever told me. So they had a meeting, and they came back. My dad packed up his office, and then I got a call from the guy that owned the firm and said, your dad's leaving. I want you to stay. And then right after that, I was presented with an agreement, which was a whole different deal where basically I got way less money, and they were not my clients. They were going to stay with the firm. So that's kind of how I started. Ended up staying there for a while. They kept cutting the comp to about 10% was the last deal presented to me. I'm like, that's not enough. I got 10, they got 90 of what I produced. And so I went to another firm, was there for 14 months, and decided I can do this better. And I came here.
Beautiful. Okay, that is what I wanted to hear. You can pass that over to Nick because he's next on my list. I'm not improvising very well. It's like, I'm sorry, I wrote it down that way. You got to do it. Okay, you already know your question, Nick. You and Dave met and somehow decided you were going to buy in and join forces. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, so Dave and I met in 2018 at a Financial Planning Association conference and just started kind of having a conversation. At the time, in 2015, I had started my own firm in the independent broker-dealer space. And I was kind of looking to become fee only, and Dave was looking for someone else to help him because his partner, he had bought out Beth Rudder-Bear, who had retired. And so we just kind of dated for a couple years. I ended up leaving the independent broker-dealer space and kind of working under him with similar revenue sharing, not partnership. It was still technically my business. We did that for about 2 years until we got more serious about partnership and, felt like a really good fit. And we liked working together and we wanted to build a firm more than anything. And so we solidified that in about 2021. And then from there, we went on to hire now 2 associate advisors and 2 support staff in addition to the one that was already there. So. Did I get my time right? I heard there was a timer on this, and I want to stay on your good side. So
you always want to stay on my good side, and I wasn't looking at the clock. You're fine. You're great. I'm sitting here going like, oh my God, I've known them so long. That's where my brain is right now. As soon as you're like, I met him at 18, I'm like, I remember when he came home and said, I met a guy. And he might be a good fit for the firm. And I was like, oh, okay, hang on, here we go. We're going to coach through this. So anyway.
Story as old as time, Arlene.
That's right. Okay, so AJ, if you haven't had the joy of going to AJ and Shane's website, Brooklyn FI, or do you guys just do BKFI now?
We're BKFI now.
You're yes. BKFI. I'm very slow.
BKFI.com, the domain costs $30,000, and I'm not ready to make that investment, so it's brooklynfi.com for now.
Oh, well, how fiscally responsible of you. Okay, so that said, they have a super awesome intro video on their site, and I will admit to you, AJ, when I first saw it and I clicked on it, I can't remember now, it's like 15 minutes.
It's like 18 minutes?
Okay, whatever. Yeah, it's like a sitcom episode. And I was like, ain't nobody got time for that. What are you young whippersnappers thinking? And oh my gosh, get the popcorn. I watched the whole thing and I loved it. So spoiler, it's a super fun video. But I want to hear how in the world you went from podcast episode to him having a tax firm and you doing whatever it was you were doing, which I should know, but I don't. And how 30 people, what the heck? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so in 2017, I was a music journalist. So I was interviewing musicians, writing about them, writing record reviews for a tech company called Bandcamp. So I worked in editorial, I was a book editor, writer, and was making money for the first time. When you work in book publishing, you don't make money. That's just kind of an understood thing. Then I worked in tech, and for the first time I thought, well, I have money left over. What do you do with money? So I'm a career changer in a pretty extreme way. I didn't know what financial planning was. I didn't know anything about money at all. I didn't have a Roth IRA until I was 27, which is the same year that I met Shane. And long story short, started a podcast called Money-splained, like mansplained. And my friend said, oh, you should interview my accountant. He's like cool. He's got long hair. And that was Shane. So you can actually listen to a 2-hour episode of the first time Shane and I meet on Money-splained. And we hit it off. And that summer we hung out a few times. And I was getting very into personal finance. He was an accountant who was going to leave his firm and maybe start something. And we just got along really well, and we had a hypothesis that young people were making money and they weren't getting good financial advice, and they wanted financial advice from people who could talk to them in a meaningful way. So we launched the firm basically that summer. We didn't actually launch until that following April, and it took off pretty quickly, and we just took a big leap and trusted each other. I enrolled in the CFP that summer, the same month that we inked our partnership agreement. So I actually couldn't even own the firm until I got my CFP. So for 2 years, I worked trusting Shane that this thing would work. And so we had a signed partnership agreement in our lawyer's safe for 2 years until I got that CFP. So there was a lot riding on that test that day that I took that CFP exam. Wow. And it grew and grew and grew. And we decided to grow our team. And we niched into equity compensation, and that was a good thing to do in 2018. And yeah, now our team so we have employees in the US, and we also have employees in the Philippines. So those are the folks you don't see on the website.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay. So Andy, You are next up. And I loved your journey because you're like kind of career changer, kind of lifelong finance dude, if I'm reading all your bio stuff correctly. So I just want to hear, like, how did you decide to come back? 19 years is a long time to go back around. So tell us about that change and what caused you to launch Tenon.
Yes. So I graduated college in 2000, went to school for finance, wanted to be an advisor, but didn't really know what it was. I just wanted to help people with money decisions, basically. And as I was interviewing at the places that were recruiting on campus for roles they called financial advisor, I quickly realized it was all just insurance sales, wirehouses, and there's a couple, I didn't know the term RIA at the time, but do now, a couple of really large RIAs. And quickly got turned off. The common denominator was just sell something, just gather assets, just open accounts, whatever. And so gave up on the idea of being an advisor, stumbled into an actuarial corporate job at a large insurance company, and then ended up staying in the corporate world for 19 years, doing various different risk management, institutional banking, and investing roles. So I was in and around finance and investing in various capacities, but none of it was like retail planning or advising per se. And then 2015, 2016 just started to get the itch. I didn't want to keep doing my corporate thing the rest of my life, long commute to and from Manhattan from where I live in New Jersey. Money was good, but hours were stressful, work was stressful, and just like, I don't want to do this another 20, 30 years. And so I just started to get re-engaged at the thought of what does this planning thing possibly look like? And just started Googling around, came across the XYPN Network podcast, and just started listening. And that like blew, if I had a lid, it'd be blown off. Like just hearing stories of people and how they're doing things in different ways, like the fee for service, the hourly, the whatever, the subscription, the retainer, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, wow, this is it. So I went down this rabbit hole of just learning everything I could about that and what has since changed in the world with how you can do services differently, charge differently, whatever. And that was it. So from that point forward, I decided this is what I want to do. I spent the next few years researching and planning and getting credentials and education and learning best practices about whatever, and knew I wanted to do it by myself. I had no interest in joining a larger place, having worked in really large global firms. I didn't want the bureaucracy. I didn't want 360 reviews and all the other nonsense you have to do at big places. And just wanted no commute. I wanted flexibility. I want to control my time professionally and personally. And so I never considered anything other than starting up on my own. And XY was phenomenal for that because I heard so many stories of people who come before me who did it and learned from them and what have you. So that was it. So that was 2016. I officially decided this is what I'm doing. It was a 3-year journey of saving money to give myself some personal runway to make this work because I know I'd be starting from true zero and learning what I could. And so November 2019 was when I quit the corporate world and flipped the switch live on my RIA from true scratch. And here I am 5 years later.
Awesome. Yeah.
November 1st. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I didn't realize.
Yeah. We are coming up on that in a hot minute. Okie dokie. I need Melissa's help because she was going to help me with the poll. And I don't get to see it since it's your poll. I can't actually look at it.
You can't see it.
So I need you to open that up for me again. Sorry, I let it go to sleep. I should have paid attention. So here is a fun thing, and this is my last thing before I just start calling on y'all. But Melissa had a poll about what scares you most about launching your own firm, and I thought this was really fascinating because it was a lot of different answers. Wearing many hats, not knowing when to hire. Oof, yeah, we've heard that. I did it 10 years ago, and I'm still scared. Oh my gosh. Yeah, because every day is something new. This one hurt my heart. Turning into my father who was overworked himself and had no work-life balance. Also balancing administrative and compliance responsibilities on top of planning and marketing. And, I love this one. Did you read the last one? Not scared about launching, scared about leaving the best legacy with the next generation. Okay, I don't know who wrote that, but I love you. That's awesome sauce. Yeah, so that's what we want to be here to answer is, the things you're afraid of, the questions you have about like, why should I launch? How should I launch? How did you come on your path? So that said, raise your hands, do whatever you need to do to ask a question, and you can either direct it at one person or we can just let the four of them hash it out. So who brought questions with them? Bill, my new favorite.
This is for everyone, I guess. What's your biggest regret since launch?
Mine is it's lonely as a solo. The one thing I do miss about the corporate world and working really large places was always being around people. And I quit to start my own thing. I wanted to be the quintessential solo and was until I hired someone a year and a half ago. But it's super lonely, and I'm social, and I miss it. Even with the employee now who works remote 3 states away from me, we talk, we Zoom, we whatever, but it's not the same as like being around someone to chit-chat with during the day. I still wouldn't go back and trade it for the world, but that is my biggest complaint and thing I miss.
I don't really have a lot of regrets. The one would be I kind of second guessed myself about what the fee should be, and I started lower than what I probably should have put it for the level of work that I do for them.
Not many regrets, but similarly, I think early on, not having the courage to manage people's money and charge them for it. I think the fee-for-service model is fantastic, but if you ever want to have a life outside of serving your clients, you want to be able to have a business model that can scale. And people buying your time at an hourly or monthly price ensures that you will always have to be answering those emails, and it'll be very hard to bring other people into the firm, to be hard to pay salaries without having people's money to manage. And I think early on, I didn't know anything about the industry, and I've listened to every single XY podcast and every single Kids' podcast. That's how we built our firm also. It was, insurance, selling whole life insurance is really bad. And also, charging people 1%. I also came from the FIRE community, financial independence, retire early. Charging, an advisor charging you 1% is taking advantage of you. So I had that kind of backwards mindset for a long time, and it took me almost 3 years to get out of it. And a really important hire who actually came onto our firm, John, who's now our managing partner, who had worked at a real RIA, said, "What are you guys doing here? What's going on? You have, we were doing equity compensation. We had we were basically advising on $1 billion, and we weren't helping people actually convert money into wealth and into net worth and into making their dreams happen." So the way that I think about managing people's money is getting things done for them. You may encounter DIYers in your lives, and that's great if they actually do it. But we found that someone would say, "I don't want you to manage my money. I'm going to manage it on my own." The accounts would never get open. They would never get funded. Their kids aren't going to college because they never opened the 529 plan. So us being able to actually open those accounts, manage that money, not understanding how valuable that is and how that is a part of real financial planning is the biggest regret. I mean, we spent almost 3 years not doing that. And now I see it in our clients' balance sheets. I see it in the feedback we get, which is just, I can't believe that I thought I could do this on my own. I'm so grateful for you as a partner.
Wow. I love that.
I would say my biggest regret is not starting sooner. So I started my own firm in 2015. I started in the industry in 2006. And I just feel like that was a bunch of lost time of not starting my own firm and not going out on my own. And to my defense, I guess XYPN wasn't really around. We didn't have all those podcasts quite then. So it would have been nice. But they're here now. So that would be my one biggest regret, not going out on my own sooner.
I love it. I kind of want to follow up on that, and maybe you're leaning into it because you're like, okay, the opposite of my regret is do it sooner. Okay, so that sounds easy enough. But do you have a solution? Because there are people out here, if they're thinking about it and they're scared or they're not understanding, wait, you can charge how much for managing? I want all of you to kind of think of okay, what's your regret? But what's the flip side of that? What's your advice? Do this today. Do this Monday morning when you get up. Whatever.
So I guess the flip side for me is, you're always I feel like everybody's always waiting for the perfect time. Well, I have enough money. I'm established enough, and it's I see this a lot with. I have 4 little brothers and a little sister, and none of them have kids, and they're all 30 years plus. It's like they're all waiting for the right, perfect time to have kids, and the reality is there is no perfect time, right? They're going to screw your life up whether you're 20 or whether you're 40. So just get it done, right? So I feel like, start going out on your own is the same way, right? Like there's no perfect time. You're never going to have a perfect solution. You're never going to have all the money. You're never going to have all the answers. So just as Carl likes to say, take that first small step and, just get over the fear and start doing it.
That's great advice. Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself.
Kids or
All of it. I think just do it is great. You can stress about which CRM, what website to host your, how to host your site, what your fees are going to be. You're going to change all of that. All of that will change. That's a guarantee, right? You're not going to keep it from day one. So just do it. And also, I think it's really important to be honest with your first couple of clients. When I first started, I didn't know anything. And I had this complex where they would say, how much experience do you have? And I said, a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had just said, just a couple years, I'm learning. Or when someone asks you a question, it's okay to say to those clients early on, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not an expert in Social Security. But if you give me 24 hours, I'm going to ask some really smart people that I know, and I will get you an answer. So I think that fear, if you have that fear of, I'm not going to be able to answer all my clients' questions. Need to go get this designation before I can hold myself out as an expert on this. You can be an expert because you are someone's putting trust in you. So therefore you're an expert, and just be honest if you don't know the answer.
That's good. Let's see what come back to me.
Sure.
I have something.
No, it's okay. That was a really good one. I'm with you. Distracting.
Yeah.
This doesn't directly address it, but I think it's important to know, especially for people who are starting your own thing from nothing, is I agree there's never going to be a time where you're the stars all aligned, it's 100% clear, and now's the right time to do it. But you do have to plan. Don't wing it. I've talked to some people who are 22, 23, all gung-ho about starting their own firm. No. You have 2 months worth of savings in the bank. You have 6 months of experience in the industry. You have no natural network. This isn't going to work for you. And it might, but chances are it won't. So with that said, make sure you have not just the business thought through enough. Again, I completely agree. Don't worry about the tech stack and whatever. That will change. Have something, obviously, but finances. Do you have enough money to support yourself 6 months, 1 year, ideally 2 years? Starting from scratch, give yourself a 2-year runway to make this work. The business isn't going to take off in 6 months or 1 year. I think 2-year mark is about the time where you know, okay, this is clicking, or it's not, and I should probably hang it up and go work somewhere else. But give yourself enough financial runway to get there so you're not desperate 4, 5, 6 months in and making bad decisions or taking on terrible clients or what have you. If you do have a significant other, they need to be completely on board with what you're doing as well, not just financially, obviously, but it's a grind, and it's emotionally hard at times, and that person needs to be supportive of you. If not, you're going to have problems personally, not just professionally, without a good support network behind you.
Cool. Do you remember
That's
something?
good
Okay.
advice right there. I did a conference presentation 2 or 3 years ago, and it was exactly about that. You have to keep your spouse informed. And have a weekly meeting. Pretend they're your business partner because they really are, even if they aren't. And just let them know, where are you? How many clients do you have? What's your revenue? But what I was going to say a minute ago that I thought, kind of lost that thought, was you don't have to just completely stop doing something else and then start your firm. You can start your firm, and then if you have another job, it just can't conflict with what you're doing. And maybe you just pick up maybe some little odd jobs here and there. I drove Uber my first year in business just for 6 months because I thought, this is a way maybe to get some money, for Christmas presents, because money was tighter because I didn't have that nice salary that I left, willingly. At the time, my husband said, you can quit. Just quit. It's not worth it. It's too stressful to be there. Just quit and start your own thing. Go do it. Which I did, and then after that, we got divorced because he didn't like me not having that income. But whole other story. So that's why I say, talk to your spouse, because, you got it. It all works together. But it's okay to go do something else, too. There's another advisor here, Mike Zung, he was a programmer, and he kept doing his regular job until he had enough revenue from his RIA to support him, and then finally he left that job. So there are a lot of ways to do this. You don't just have to quit and go whole hog into this.
That's great. Yeah, great advice. A lot of different ways to format your runway. Yes, in the front row here.
Yeah, so I think the the title of the session was included acquisitions, and I don't think there was an acquisition between the four of you. So I'm wondering if you've thought about acquisitions, how you thought about it, have you passed? Is it kind of because private equity's coming in, valuations are higher, or it just doesn't make sense for your business? And how you thought about partnering with someone to then take over their business as opposed to an acquisition? Whether those two were kind of competing notions in your head and how you thought about that.
I had considered purchasing another firm and going that route. My biggest fear with that personally was a lot of times people hire you because they like you. And I didn't want to pay for a business and then have them leave because I wasn't that other person. So, and even personally, I'm looking for my succession plan right now to hire someone that comes in and works with me for the next 5 to 10 years before I leave. And I don't know that I'll even leave at that point. Maybe I'll just kind of taper it down and take my favorite clients, and maybe there's 5 or 10 clients I meet with each year, and that they're running the firm. But I don't know that I would just want to sell my firm personally. And from the flip side, buying one, that was really my biggest fear, is that they wouldn't accept me.
Yeah, we built the firm from day one thinking about an exit. And I think that is an important exercise to do. Even if the answer is I never want to exit, it's important to know that because it helps inform how you're building. So there isn't a day that goes by where I'm not thinking about an exit. Where we are in terms of size and visibility, yeah, I get offers a couple times a week from private equity firms, none of which seem very serious or good fits, but they're there. So what used to be, oh, this could be interesting, is now very much, there's a lot of money on the table. By not having an exit now, it could go away, right? I'm sure a lot of us have fairly high risk tolerance because we're business owners, but there is this idea that if I don't exit now, will there be something in the future? Or if I exit now, am I missing out on an incredible 10x exit in the future? So acquisitions are, I think, kind of like year 3 or 4, like you're thinking about it every day, or maybe that's just me. And yeah, I would love to, at the size we are now, there's so many amazing firms in this network and close to this network. Like, we have a platform, we have scale, and we've actually entertained a lot of conversations about an acquisition. So if anyone's in equity compensation and likes what we're doing, give me a call later. So yeah, I think that knowing where you want to go, and that of course will change, is really important from day one.
So I think similar for us, I don't think we're close to acquiring another firm, but it have to be the right fit. It's certainly not the way that we want to grow per se. Kind of our strategic, how we think about our exit plan, succession is more along the lines of let's hire some good young talent and train them up. And part of the reason probably the biggest reason for us is both Dave and myself kind of came up through the bank insurance channel, and there's not a day that goes by that either one of us is like, man, I can't believe I'm actually sitting here right now, because most of the people that I started with aren't. And yes, we can only save a few. At Michigan State University next to us, there's 110 kids in their wealth management association this year. And it pains me that we can only hire one every couple of years, because most of them are probably not going to make it, right? Like, that's just the reality of it. And so we wanted to provide that opportunity where somebody could actually, crazy idea, but come in and learn how to be a financial planner for a couple of years instead of going out and selling to people and hopefully making it by selling off life insurance policies to their friends and family. So that's been a big kind of goal of ours, is to provide those opportunities along with internships that we do twice a year. So I guess we're not closed down to it, but it's not like a priority for us unless the perfect person came in and it just made sense.
I find that interesting because I think of you as, obviously you weren't acquired. Well, yes. But the way you and Dave met, and you each had firms and you partnered up, I think that's kind of a fascinating story as opposed to, because it's such a big move. Like, you've got a business on the line when neither of you have anything yet. Like AJ and Shane, I mean, nothing, but you didn't have a business. Like, you're like, we're going to start this from scratch. Whereas you two were like, no, we're both okay. Like, will we be better together? I think that's a pretty fascinating conversation. So I would actually, yeah.
So I was in my third year of going solo in the independent space, and I think Dave had joined Beth about 4 years before then, 2012, 6 years maybe. And so, I didn't have any real intentions of going out and changing firms or doing anything differently. It just happened that I wanted to, I kind of got to that point in my own business where I was either going to have to hire someone or, start taking on more infrastructure, if you will. And where I was at in my life, honestly, I had now I got to do math on how old my kids are. What was that?
I don't know how old your kids are.
They were, I think,
I know
13
mine
and
are.
6, something like that. And so I knew that I loved several things. But my top priorities in life at that point in time were being around, being able to hang out with my kids, being able to do stuff, watch them grow up. One of them's 20 now and doesn't really want to hang out with me. The other one's 13, and he definitely doesn't want to hang out with me. So things have shifted a little bit. But I was at this point where at that time I knew time was limited, right? They're only going to be young for so long. I want to hang out with them. I love financial planning. I love being in front of clients. I specialize in financial life planning. I'm a registered life planner. And so having those conversations was super important to me. And obviously, my wife and my family along with my kids. And I just came to this point where it was, if I have to be more of a business owner, it's going to take away from something. And I'm not at that point in my life where I want to take away from that. And so when Dave and I started talking, it just kind of made sense for me to be able to come in and focus on taking on new clients, bring them through the life planning process, not necessarily having to go out and hire staff and train staff and manage staff. So a lot of that stuff I didn't have to do and still don't have to do at this time. And so that was kind of like the perfect fit. And then I moved in with him, kind of like I said, dating, where we basically spent 2 years just figuring out, is this going to work? Is it going to be better? And, we really hit it off, and things, I think, got better significantly for both of us. We had the same vision of the firm, and God bless our third partner, Jeff, because Dave and I are both visionaries, and so we have lots of ideas, and somebody's got to implement some of them. And so that's where he came in, but it was just the perfect fit for me in my time of life and what I wanted to do. And so I think that's why it worked so well.
Yeah, we can have a whole other session on the importance of the operations partner. That makes, I love Jeff. Oh, yes.
Yeah, so as business owners, all of you, if you were to be hypothetically thinking about bringing on a partner, whether an employee who's coming up or outside, what kind of things would you all really be thinking critically about when considering that? And then as someone potentially to be a partner, what would you also want to be thinking about? If that makes sense.
So we have a partnership track, we have career paths with, a path to partnership. And I think the biggest thing for us in kind of making that decision is, a partner, much like a spouse, is someone that you have to be able to work with every single day, right? You have to take into consideration their thoughts and feelings. And so having that fit of, hey, this person wants to be here. They want to have a leadership role. They want to do things that maybe other people don't want to do, as far as, managing staff or, doing the things that have to be done that nobody else can do. So I think that's a big part for us, is figuring out. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be the best advisor or bring in the most business. It really, to us, means, are you going to be the right fit for, the transition and those leadership type conversations, and showing that leadership and doing some of the dirty work.
Can I put you on the spot super quick before you hand that off?
Of course.
And then we're gonna let you share. But I happen to know that you have someone on your team who is relatively young, but seems to have a special place in her heart for interns, and you are giving her leadership opportunity there. Are you willing and able to discuss that?
Yeah, sure. So our associate advisor, who's been with us, she came from out of Michigan State University. That program, it'll be 3 years in May, I believe. And so kind of our thought process was, she was an intern with us. She was our second intern, I think.
I think so.
And so when she came on, kind of our, associate advisor progression is like, hey, you're an associate advisor, you train, you work with the interns, and kind of as you go up the ladder, you work with lower associate advisors as we hire them in. And so there's always this kind of training aspect to it, but she has really taken off with the internship program, which is great. Because like I said, Dave and I are visionaries, and we are like, yeah, ooh, shiny thing, internships, we should do that. But also, like, somebody has to walk them through, like, how to get onto the technology and how to, what meetings to be in and what to do in meetings. And also, we need to make sure that there's time on our schedule to work with the intern. And that's all the stuff that she's really taken under her wing as far as figuring out, like, what are these interns who come in with no experience? How do we get them to a point where they have a good experience with us, B, learn a lot, and C, hopefully, at least some of them, stay on to become that next generation of planners for us.
Thanks. Okay, now you hand it to AJ, because I know she's got thoughts.
Yeah, I think when you're thinking about partners, so obviously we partnered early on. That was a huge risk, leap of faith. But we actually recently brought on a third partner. And Shane and I made a list of qualitative and quantitative qualifications for partnership. And, the numbers are, you have to be at the firm for 3 years. You have to manage some kind of revenue. Those will change because there's a certain person who we have in mind who wants to be a partner who doesn't manage revenue. And then there's the qualitative, right? And that's a much more personal thing. A lot of people talk about values. That's important. But what about one that's important to us is, are they proud to work at BKFI? Is this the kind of associate advisor or intern who's resharing our blog posts on LinkedIn? Like, that matters. Like, they're an owner. They're going to be representative of the firm. Are they going to be able to participate in the highs and the lows? I think something that's come up with some of our employees who want to be partners and are excited about being partners, they think of partnership and ownership as, oh, I get to share in the profits. Well, if you're a partner, if we have a bad year and we have another 2008, they're also going to share in the downside. So are they willing and able to participate in a tough year? And I think we initially were afraid of even offering a path to partnership because there was such a misunderstanding of employees or non-owners about what it means to be a business owner. So I think it's just important, whoever you partner with, whether it's someone who's coming up through your firm or an acquisition or even you as the firm being acquired, like, is your risk profile in alignment?
I don't put that down. I have a follow-up. I love that so much. Give it back to AJ because she's not done. I'll let her off the hook. So, no, I love that you're thinking about both sides of this and the, like, who knew, resharing on social media would be what we measure. But how are you, you talked about they are all excited about the profits and sharing the profits, and don't we all look on the bright side? How are you teaching them or sharing that knowledge of, like, yeah, it's not all rainbows and unicorns? Do you have that systematized or built in somehow?
No.
Okay, cool. Moving on.
We have a revenue share, and, luckily we've been able to say our revenue has grown consistently every quarter since day one. There will be a time where that's not the case. But no, we have not planned for that. Thank you for giving me a to-do.
There we go. I'm there for you. Okie dokie. Now, go for it. No, I didn't want to put you guys on the spot because you're both solos, and so I was going to let you.
Well, I'm not as solo as I used to be.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Jump in. Go, please.
Well, I actually have another advisor who works with me, but he's not really producing anything. That's a whole other long story. But he basically asked me to take his clients because he was getting out of that business. And then he kind of decided, he saw what the RIA looked like, and he was like, oh, well, maybe I do want to do this. So anyway, he got licensed, he's on board, but I think he still doesn't want to do this. But anyway, I also have an assistant that's been with me for a long time. I hired her early on. I just happened to meet her, and she had worked at Empower Retirement in their back office. And she retired early, like she was in her 50s. And I'm like, oh, you like back office stuff? Back office. I was getting tired of doing paperwork. So, because I'm more like he was saying, a visionary, and I don't want to do that paperwork stuff. It takes a lot of time. So she came on part-time, years ago, and has just grown with me. And then I just recently hired a paraplanner that is putting together plans for me. But to answer your question about what I'm looking for in a partner, I first look for somebody that I like their personality, because if I don't like them, I don't want to spend time with them every day. And it's, I have to be able to get along with them. If not, then, and I'm easy to get along with. They're the ones that wouldn't be easy to get along with. But looking for someone also for those values, that they want to serve the same clients that I serve. Probably, I'd say 85 to 90%. I should know this number. I know that from the KPI thing. Exactly how many are single women in my practice, but mostly that's who my clients are. So I want someone who can relate to them, and that just naturally seems to be a woman. I know there are a lot of men that their specialty is working with women in transition, and I can tell you that most of my clients came to me and said, they don't understand me. I'm leaving that advisor. I'm going to come work with you. So no, not knocking men at all. It's just that's what I think is important. It's just somebody that can relate to the clients that we have that naturally, just happen to find Sapphire Wealth Planning.
Cool. Okay. Thoughts?
I don't have a tremendous amount to add, but I'll just say, so my firm's different. I don't think I can ever work for someone else again, so I keep that in mind. And I'm partly anal, and I like running the business and having control, so I don't see me ever giving up or selling any sort of partnership. If I do, it'll be super minority for what it's worth. But the business is different in how it's structured, and my business is terrible in terms of like people wanting to acquire us, because we charge a flat fee that includes management investments. It just so doesn't fit in the typical model. So I actually never thought about exiting this. My plan was, I'm going to start this. I'm going to run it myself. My clients will be older than me. I'll eventually start slowing down as my clients kind of die off, frankly, because they're 20 years older than me. And I'll just sort of run this thing gradually into retirement. I never thought about enterprise value or cashing out or whatever. Now I realize at some point, like now with an employee who's a second advisor, there does need to be, for continuity's sake, if nothing else. If I die today on the flight home, she still has access to all my clients' accounts. We share that access. We can trade, we can move money, whatever. So there's continuity there. But she's not interested in getting my clients dumped on her, nor does she have any access or capabilities to like do the corporate stuff. So her getting paychecks would stop if I die. And so like I probably need someone else to come into the business to help with that. There's a couple people I know who operate and do things like me and have the same views towards the industry, which is important. That those are people I think I would partner up with, where we both kind of have our own businesses. We sort of loosely bolt together, but kind of maintain autonomous. But again, I don't think I'm very attractive of a business to most of the industry for the way we structure fees and stuff. But so it's hard, and I haven't thought that much about it. I know I should at some point, though.
You should. Let's have coffee. I want to layer some stuff in here because I think this is really important information. That you said, oh, I'm flat fee, so I'm not attractive to anyone. And I am actually in the process of winding down coaching with a woman who had a flat fee firm. She's had it. She's done. She's closed on a deal with, I won't say who, but a very large RIA. And she's got a little bit of a sell and stay, to ease in, because that's what helps keep the clients around. But there's don't discount yourself. That's what I'm trying to get to. Don't discount yourself, because they'll figure that. That's what the FP transitions and the valuation people in the world do, is they make that translation. It's like going from dollars to euros. Like somebody's going to figure out what those things. That doesn't mean one's not worth anything because it's not a euro. It's just different. So please don't discount yourself. That's what I'm really trying to get to. And then go get a continuity plan, because I don't want anything bad to happen to you. But if it does, it really sucks bad to deal with that. So yeah, get your continuity plan.
And I should say we do have one technically. I'm going through an SEC exam now. They seem to be okay with the continuity plan, but they didn't specifically ask, if I die today, what happens with the business? And frankly, the business basically stops. Like immediately, the transitioning of accounts still there, Schwab's still there, whatever. But like the running of the corporate aspects wouldn't happen, which I realized that should be addressed.
It should. Yeah,
The
that's
SEC
kind of
hasn't told me to do
outside of
that,
the
but-
scope of like, should I start a business, which is what we're supposed to be talking about, but also like, please prepare with the end in mind. Talk to me later if you want me to harp on you about continuity planning. Okie doke. I've got a couple questions I want to ask you, so I'm going to steal it back from the audience. Andy, you actually addressed this a little bit on, pros and cons of the path that you've taken, but I want to hear from all of you. Like, what, if you had to go back and do it again, and what are just your top 2 pros and cons of the way you started your firm? And I'm going to start with you because you talked about runway and you talked about your one regret was loneliness. Anything else in the pros, cons, things to remember list?
Not really. I don't need to say that in like I got this all figured out, because I definitely don't. But I made a lot of the mistakes, that people think are mistakes, like not charging enough initially and then increasing your fees over time. It's very easy for someone who's successful and got it figured out to say you should charge more when you start. It's very different to be in that seat when you're first starting, don't know where your clients are coming from. You definitely have imposter syndrome. Why would I hire you who's 2 months in business? I see nothing wrong. I don't want to say with undercharging intentionally, but charge what you think you should charge. You will figure it out along the way if you have to increase it. So, and that was I increased fees 5 times since I started. Never on existing clients, but new clients coming on, paid higher fees at least. But I don't view it as a regret. And same thing with, like you said, work if you have to. There are people out there who say, absolutely not. You need to be all in on the business. Like, shut up. No, you don't. Like, if you need to survive, right? And when you have no clients, you have nothing but time on your hands anyway. You're not going to spend 50 hours a week doing marketing and stuff. If you are, it's not very successful, obviously. So, like, if you need a side hustle or you need extra income, like, do it. Don't let someone tell you you shouldn't. That wasn't in response to your question. It's just sort of like a
You know
brief I
what?
had
No,
about
you
the
go.
industry.
I'm there for you. Like all I heard was "shut up." No, you don't. And I'm like, I would like that on a T-shirt. Like I'm just gonna wear that on all my calls because it's the whole you should, you ought to charge this, you ought to do that, you ought to hire when, you ought to. There's so many you oughtas, and like, shut up. No, you don't. Man, that's it. I'm walking around.
You do it with so much more sass.
I'm getting a bumper sticker. I'm all in.
So I don't have like clear answers to pros and cons, but those are some of my thoughts about what my experience was, at least. So
yeah. Anyway, you can just send it on down the line. Take turns. You can fight for it. God, Melissa, I love you. You are a gift that I do not deserve. Pros and cons. Okay, some pros and cons. Just like a couple pros and cons on the path you've taken. Like the fact you are solo you, or almost solo adjacent.
It's mostly me, but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I first started out, it was kind of funny because I was always busy when I was at that other firm. And then I start my own firm, and every day I'm like, what should I be doing? Sometimes I would call Arlene because she helped launch me. And she would say, so what do? I don't have any plans to build. I don't have any new clients today. What do I do? So, and I kept thinking, I kind of liked it when I was busy. And then as clients came on, I got to where I was really busy. And then I really separated divorce planning out. So I have a separate LLC that is divorce planning. So I have really 2 businesses. And then I got to where I was like super busy, working 7 days a week, like full days, way too many hours. And that was last year. And then this year I decided I am not going to work on weekends anymore. And so I slacked off on that and just worked during the week. And I say I don't work on the weekends, but I will like look at email or something here and there, or maybe do one little thing whenever I have some time, if I just have some spare time, but I don't go in and work like on Saturday and Sunday anymore. And the odd thing about that, and I kept hearing people say this, that whenever I did that, since probably about a year ago, my revenue has doubled. And I've gotten better clients coming through the door. Everything's just gotten better, and I'm working less. So I don't know how that works, but it does. So there was somebody on that poll that said they were worried about turning into their dad and working constantly. Don't. You got to have some downtime, because I think it makes you better whenever you are working.
Nice. Well done.
Yeah, I think you get out of it what you put into it, and we worked similarly really hard for 5 years, 7 days a week often, and I woke up one morning with a pinched nerve in my left shoulder and couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks because I was in so much pain from sitting at a computer all day. And that was a big wake-up call. So I made some pretty significant changes in my life personally and also with the business. So yeah, that was scary. So yeah, don't work too hard. Remember that you can take days off. It's hard to in the beginning when you're building something and you know that if you don't answer that client email, you're afraid they're going to leave you. They probably won't. It'll be okay. Pros and cons of partnership. I love having a business partner. We're very close. I don't know where he is. He just decided to ditch this panel, but we'll address that later. Anyway.
Super supportive.
That's a lot of people. Shane and I are like the partnership guys. We have a panel tomorrow about partnership with actually Bjorn and Kyle, who are sitting right there. I think it really depends on, again, what your exit is going to be. If you want to have a lot more flexibility, get a business partner because life is twisty and turny. And at some points, you might want to be putting in 70 hours a week. Someone might need to take some time off to take care of a family member or to have a child or what have you. So I'm very pro partnership. I think going at this alone, I have a tremendous respect for those who do it alone. I couldn't have done it. And then just to say something really positive about this, like, we're financial planners. Like, this is the best job in the world. I did a bunch of jobs before, and just we get to have conversations with people and then actually have an impact on their lives. I'm a big believer in therapy. I love talking about things. Therapy requires you to actually go and make changes about yourself. Financial planners, we have the ability to actually make changes in our clients' lives and give them the freedom to do things that they didn't think were possible. So if you're considering what path to go on, like, we're just talking about semantics. Like, you made the right choice to be in financial planning already.
Right, yeah, you. And just to layer on that, you're absolutely right, but it's this space. It is this fee-for-service, heart in the right place area of financial planning. If you're ever bored and you're like, I would like to hear a really boring story, come talk to me about the Moss family journey through planners over the years, because it is a sordid and gross tale, but also boring. But it reaffirms to me, we finally have an XYPN member who's our advisor who is life-changing, absolutely life-changing. And not all of them have been. So congratulate yourself, pat yourselves on the back, give yourself a high five, whatever it is. You rock. We're all so flippin' amazing. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
I'm curious if you have what's your number? How many planners have you had? Is this a you issue or a them issue?
It's partly us. It's partly us. No, I think, I'm not going to take up too much time. I think the number is 6, including whole life dude when we were in our 20s. I know, right? That's what I keep thinking, is that somebody's going to be like, that's a red flag. Say no to the Mosses. And then they meet us and they're like, oh, now we see. But anyway, that's another story for preferably when I have a drink in my hand.
Couldn't help myself.
Anyway.
So I would say the one big pro to me that I didn't realize until I was in a partnership is I started in 2006 and basically have done this on my own until Dave and I joined forces. And it is a different world when you are a solo on your own versus having a partner that you can bounce ideas off. You can talk about financial planning strategies. It's different than just having other colleagues in the room. And there's a lot of power in what we're able to do, the things we're able to think about for clients. And that's something I didn't realize I was missing and how powerful it was until we started having those weekly financial planning team meetings. And doing things of that nature that you just don't really get from having a colleague when you're a solo, in my opinion. So that was one big thing, just that kind of connection was huge for me. I would say one of the cons, I'm a little bit nervous to say this in front of Arlene, but she already knows the story, so I'm sure it's fine. I guess one of the big cons is the bigger your business gets, the more people tell you how it should be run, like Michael Kitsis. Which is fine and dandy, but one of the things that, especially in his talk yesterday, that can I poll the audience? Is that allowed? how many of you in this room got in this business to help people? How many of you got in this business to make money?
Yeah, two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah, sure. It's your story. I got in this business to help people, and so did Dave. And this whole idea of giving up or getting rid of clients that we both know are not good for the business is not something that we're comfortable doing. And I have this thought of, what's enough, right? Like, what's enough in my life? How much money do I need to make? How much profit does our business have to have? Why can't I help the little old lady that when I was 20 years old said, yes, Nick, you can help me invest this $6,000 into a Roth IRA. Why can't she still be my client, right? I've probably gotten more out of her in all the years that I've been doing this than some of my $1 million clients that I ever will. And so that's something that I know that I'm not willing to give up. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be her lead advisor forever, but there will always be a place for her as long as I am doing this. And that's one of those really tough decisions that as you grow, and especially in a partnership, if you're talking about, do you connect with your partner? Like, those are decisions that you guys are going to have to make. And if you think differently about that, that's probably going to be a big problem. Thankfully, we don't have that because, as Arlene will testify to, Dave feels the same way as I do. Like, if we will make a space for them. And so that's one of the cons of having your own business and getting bigger is you're going to have to make those decisions, and you're going to have to decide, who do you want to be? What's most important to you? Is it helping that person even though you shouldn't? And even though every business coach worth their salt is going to tell you probably shouldn't? Those are the tough decisions you have to make.
I don't know why you were afraid to say that in front of me. But you're absolutely true. I do already know it really about you, and I love it. And and you're not alone in that challenge. I will do a shameless plug for coaching. Dave and I work through those kind of conversations, and I will tell people when they're doing these analyses, they're like, hey, you got some people that they don't even get put on the list because they are a foregone conclusion that they're there forever. And I've had some stories over the years about who's there forever, and I'm there for it. Like, it's fine. Everybody can't be someone special. You can't build a business on unprofitable little old ladies, but that does not mean we kick unprofitable little old ladies to the curb. We share them, we sprinkle them about so everyone has one or two, and it's all good. But anywho, thank you for sharing that, because that is hard. And we are at time. Can you talk to us after?
Yeah, just a question about that. Panel you said was about partnerships tomorrow.
Yes.
Oh.
It's called Inflection Points, and I think it's at 3:30 tomorrow. 3 or 3:30.
Okay. And I was going to do a lightning round, but you guys are off the hook because we went over. And so there's no lightning round. We're just done. That's it. There we go. Thank you so much. If you have questions later, hunt me down, hunt them down. Off you go. I don't know what's next.